يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون اللهم صل على محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال أمير المؤمنين من خطبة له وهي كلمة جامعة له فيها تصفيغ قتال المخالف والدعوة إلى طاعة الله الترقي فيها لضمان الفوز صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Alhamdulillah, we've reached khutbah number 24 in this series of discussions. Inshallah, this will be just one session khutbah because it's not that lengthy of a khutbah, unlike khutbah 23, which took us 3 sessions to complete. In this khutbah, Amir al-Mu'mineen talks about exhorting people to jihad. As we see after khutbah 21 and 22, where the focus more, maybe the compilation by Syed Rizwan was so that the first 20, 21 khutbahs were pretty much all political, siyasi. And then after, related to Imams coming into power, Imam talking about the previous khulafa, the reign of previous khulafa, things that they did, and all that stuff. Moving forward, now Imam starts exhorting, talks about, some of the akhlaqiyat. Maybe this is in his time, in his reign, where Imam ﷺ is talking about all these. So neither weakness nor compromise, rather exhorting people to jihad. So I recited this portion for you, where Imam ﷺ, I don't know why it's flickering, but in this sermon, which is a comprehensive statement that justifies fighting against the opposers who were standing up against Imam Ali, calls for the obedience of Allah and emphasizes striving in it as a guarantee for success. Again, the entire khutbah is very short. So this is the entire khutbah right here. Imam ﷺ begins by saying, وَلَا عَمْرِي مَا عَلَيَّ مِنْ قِتَالِ مَنْ خَالَفَ الْحَقِّ. By my life, there will be no regard for anyone or slackening from me in fighting against one who opposes the right or gropes in misguidance. Some of the words that Imam ﷺ uses are istilahat, which are not commonly used in the Arabic language. And that's what makes it to be a masterpiece. That's what makes it to be peak of eloquence. Those words that are not normally used. For example, Imam right away, he says, وَخَابَتَ الْغَيَّ مِنْ إِدْهَانٍ وَلَا إِهَانٍ. خَابَتَ الْغَيَّ. خَابَتَ الْغَيَّ is someone who is plunged into corruption and misguidance, is struggling within it. That's where the word khabata originally means moving blindly in darkness. When someone is moving blindly in darkness, what is the outcome is going to be? Nothing but terrible outcome of that individual. So this phrase is even more emphatic than saying khabata fil ghayb, because considering the meaning of the bab mufa'ala that it goes into, khabata yukhabitu, implies that both the misguided person and the misguidance influence each other. So at one point, the ayat of Quran is very clear. In fact, we recited it yesterday in our Quran session as well. أَفَمَنْ يَهْدِي إِلَى الْحَقِّ أَحَقُّ أَنْ يُتَّبَعْ أَمَّنْ لَا يَهِدِّي إِلَّا أَنْ يُهْدَى فَمَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. That the one who is guided, is he better to be followed than the one who himself is in need of guidance? That should you follow him. فَمَا لَكُمْ. Then Allah, gives you this wake-up call. What is wrong with, فَمَا لَكُمْ literally is translated as, what is wrong with you? كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ. How do you judge? Why is your judgment so filled with flaws and, weaknesses and whatnot? So here, Imam ﷺ says that khabat al-ghayy, khabata being bab mufa'ala, both ways. In Arabic, you have some of these af'al, which are called af'al muqabila. For example, when you say muqabila, right? Muqabila is between two people, not one person. Musabiqa is between two people and not one person. Mudariba, which is a means of transaction where both are partners in this, investment, for example. It's called muzaraba. So it goes into this bab, which is called bab mufa'ala. Imam uses the same bab over here. And then the word that Imam uses, idhan. He says, min idhanin wala ihanin. Idhan is deception or pretension, or in this concept what Imam is using is compromising. You're not allowed to compromise on your aqaid, on your beliefs. Wa ihanin, wahan. Wahan is also comes from weakness. Tawheen comes from the same word, ihan, or being feeble. Imam ﷺ, if you look at this khutbah at a glance, these are the words that I just explained for you. And then there's some other words that, will come towards the end. Firru min ilallahi min Allah. Flee to Allah, from Allah. Nahjahu lakum. He made it clear and explained it to you. Asabahu bikum. Has bound it upon you as an obligation. And your victory and success. If you look at, after this explanation, the sermon at a glance. What is this sermon talking about? What is if you were to explain to someone, khutbah number 23, this is what this khutbah is talking about. These are the takeaways of it. In this sermon, Imam severely warns those who oppose the truth and openly declares his unwavering determination to fight against them. He said, you cannot do anything to change my mind from raising my sword against these individuals. There's no compromise, no ihan, no idhan. None of those things will be mattered over here. He discourages any hopes they might have for political compromise. You know how people were sworn enemies. Just in this past election, you saw the vice president was so against the president, and then he called him and gave him a ticket. Now they're singing each other's song, right? How quickly people change their parties, their views. Everything is forgiven and forgotten due to their political alignment and interest. Imam discourages any hopes that they might have of political compromise or bargaining over the truth and justice. There is no way that when it comes to haqq, when it comes to truth, when it comes to adalat and justice, Ali is going to go ahead and side with batil. This is where we need to understand the mindset of Imam Ali and the awlad of Imam Ali, that they will never stand against people like Amir Sham. They will never stand along with people like Amir Sham. They will never stand along with the progeny of Abu Sufyan. They'll never stand along with them. They'll always be at odds with them due to these reasons. He then prepares his followers for the path by offering several important pieces of advice, exhortations to encourage them to stand by him. Now he's in the leadership role. He needs these followers, but he doesn't need these followers by bribing them, by threatening them by any of these sort of means. No. For them to understand and realize haqq for haqq and batil for batil. Some believe that this sermon was in fact a response to those who criticized the Imam for not compromising with his opponents or attempting to subdue them through bribery and other incentives. Remember, we've discussed in the beginning parts of these khutbahs the role of Talhas and Zubairs. These people were the closest allies of Imam Ali. Yeah, when Imam comes into power, what do? They were thinking they will get the maqam and the position which Imam gave only on merits. They were discouraged, disheartened by the decision. They waged war against Imam Ali. With this statement, Imam makes it clear that he is not one to engage in such dealings. This statement is an answer, response. Don't come near me when it comes to these sort of. So this is just a khutbah in a glance. So let's get right into word by word. وَلَعَمْرِي مَا عَلَيَّ مِنْ قِتَالٍ مَنْ خَالَفَ الْحَقَّ وَخَابَتَ الْغَيَّ مِنْ إِدْهَانٍ وَلَا إِيهَانٍ. The beginning of the sermon, Imam firmly declares the determination that he has in battling those who oppose the truth. He said, by my life, I shall not engage in appeasement or weakness in fighting those who oppose the truth and are deeply entangled in misguidance. This is an ultimatum given by Ali. This is not going to happen. It appears that the difference between the two phrases, khalaf al-haq, opposes the truth, wa khabat al-ghay, plunges into misguidance, lies in the fact that the first refers to someone who consciously takes a stance against the truth, while the second refers to someone who falls prey and victim to this misguidance which is planted there, which is purposely fulfilled there. Imam then follows by advising the people on several important matters. First thing that Imam says what? He says, Fattaqullah, ibadallah. He reminds people of the piety. That piety is something, we find the exhortation of piety in Quran from the very beginning. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. When it comes to every ibadat, you find it what? كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. ittaqullah haqqa tuqatihi, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullah wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. All these ayat which are talking about taqwa. Imam begins the same way. He says, "O servants of Allah, fear Allah." First and foremost, हम लोग भी उर्दू में कहते हैं अल्लाह का खौफ करो. इनको खौफ खुदा नहीं है. This maqula, इसको खौफ खुदा नहीं है. It's basically ittaqullah. That's what it is. He says, "O servants of Allah, fear Allah and adopt piety." Taqwa, which is an inner state of God consciousness, spiritual orientation that leads one to avoid sins. What does taqwa do? Taqwa comes from the root word wiqaya. Waqayaqi, which means to protect. Qay means to protect. Ayat of Quran which says, when it comes to exhorting parents especially, protect yourself and your children from the hellfire which Allah has prepared. The ayat, the Arabic is not coming in my mind. Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum naran. Qu mean protect yourself. Wa ahlikum and your family from the fire which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared. How do you protect yourself? By adopting this taqwa. What does taqwa do? Taqwa becomes that veil in front of that sin which is awaiting. So, muttaqi and taqwa is something which we have spoken a great deal. It's the source of all goodness and virtue. For this reason, it is always emphasized as a prelude to other important ethical, social, and religious recommendations. Imam continues. He says, وَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ مِنَ اللَّهِ. This is, again, peak of eloquence, right? This is where you find these subtleties in the words of Imam. You don't find it anywhere else. He said, flee to Allah from Allah. Well, this requires explanation which is beyond my pay grade as well, but I'll try my best. That is, flee from His wrath to His mercy. Flee from Allah to Allah. I say, why? If you say to someone, flee from him to him, you say, oh, doesn't make sense. You want me to stay away from him or you want to go to him? Flee from the adhab that he will implement onto you to his mercy that he will implement onto you. That's what Imam ﷺ is suggesting over here. He says, from disobedience to the obedience, from punishment to reward, from his retribution to his blessings. That's what ilallah, min Allah, ilallah means. This expression is a subtle reference to the concept of tawheed af'ali, right? We have different types of tawheed, tawheed af'al, tawheed dhat, and tawheed sifat, and so on and so forth. Oneness of Allah's actions signifies that every difficulty a person faces in this world arises as a consequence of their own actions. Many ayat of Quran talk about it, bima kasabat rahina. Whatever you do is due to your own hands. Zahar al-fasad min al-barr wal-bahar. Fasad has appeared because of the wrongdoing of the people in it. So thus all afflictions are in a sense from Allah as a form of divine justice as well. Therefore, the only solution to these hardship is to turn to Him for refuge. It is coming from Him, so you want to go to Him to find that refuge into Him. It's coming as a retribution, but at the same time, the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also comes. A good example could be that something which is painful while beneficial. Can something which is painful be beneficial? Can a headache which hurts your head be beneficial? Many ways. If there was no headache, you won't go after the cure, right? Imagine there was something brewing up in your head, you didn't even know about it. But the moment it starts hurting, you do the ilaj. So it's actually benefit. It's beneficial that you're feeling the pain, so you can go ahead and cure it. What is another benefit of this pain? When you're feeling the pain, then your heart starts to soften up as well. You're no longer that arrogant being. Now you're weak, you're feeble, you're sick, you're shivering. Now you say Allah, Allah. So it changes you. So pain could definitely be good. Dr. Sahab might disagree that pain might not be pain management and all that stuff. But nonetheless, pain is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if it changes you, if it reforms you. It brings this sort of change into you. It says, La mu'athara fil wujude illallah. There's no true cause in existence except Allah. Then Imam goes to the next line. I'll skip through some of the discussions here. He said in his third piece of advice, Imam alayhi salatu wasalam says, وَمُّدُوا فِي الَّذِي نَهَجَهُ لَكُمْ. Follow the path that Allah has set for you. Then in his fourth, I'll do these both together. He says, وَقُومُوا عَصَبَهُ بِكُمْ. Fulfill the duties that have been prescribed for you. In reality, Imam here lays out a structured 4-step plan for salvation and success. 4-step plan that Imam is giving you. First, he revives in them the spirit of God consciousness and piety. Have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This leads to the movement toward Allah, introducing the concept of fleeing from Him to Him. Once this journey begins, one must walk the path that Allah has set for them in faith and belief. Finally, in practice, a person must stand firm in fulfilling the responsibilities and the duties that Allah has prescribed. There's some, technical discussions over here, which I'll skip for the brevity of time. Imam then states towards the end, accordingly, Ali guarantees your victory. If you do these things, victory is guaranteed. فَعَلِيٌّ ضَامِنٌ لِفَلْجِكُمْ عَاجِلًا إِنْ لَمْ تُمْنَحُوهُ عَاجِلًا. If you act accordingly, Ali guarantees your victory, and if you do not attain it today, you will surely achieve it in the future. This is the same strong, powerful logic found in the Noble Quran, which teaches its followers that in the battle against the enemy and on the battlefield in performing this jihad, they are always victorious, regardless of the outcome. If you're fighting under Imam Ma'soom, a true just leader, you're always victorious, regardless of the outcome of the battle. Whether you win or lose, you as an individual is always victorious. How so? If they defeat the enemy, they are victorious. Everybody will call them. And if they are martyred in the path of Allah, they're still victorious. They've achieved a great achievement in their lives. Quran also talks about this in chapter 9, ayat number 52, when Allah says, قُلْ هَلْ تَرَبَّصُونَ بِنَا إِلَّا إِحْدَى الْحُسْنَيَيْنِ. He says, say, do you await for us anything except one of the two best outcomes, victory or martyrdom? So it is clear that soldiers who believe in themselves or believe themselves victorious in all circumstances and view their enemies as doomed to defeat and possess such high morals that they fear no danger, and do not flinch in the face of any hardship that may come towards them. As some foreign scholars have noted, the main factor behind the victories of Muslims on the battlefield, despite their significant disadvantage. Look at Battle of Badr, the disadvantage that they had. Even in the Battle of Uhud, the disadvantage that they had. It says, despite their significant disadvantage in numbers and resources compared to their enemies, was their faith in every principle. It was the faith that was the leading cause of their moral and apparent victory. Even in today's world, the Islamic principle must be revived so that Muslims do not kneel before the overwhelming forces of their enemies, and they can emerge strong and victorious from every struggle. It is worth noting that this level of resilience and strength can only be achieved through faith, powerful conviction, deep piety, and God consciousness. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to be able to understand the words of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, and also to be able to implement these teachings into our lives. Wa akhiru da'wana